about 70% of my clients are first-time homebuyers. Taxes seem to be kind of the thing that most people don't really understand. We have a general knowledge of, but not in detail.
I just see too many people using their properties because of what they don't know. Because I see that, it's encouraged me and made me more aware that I need to get the word out about what are the different things people need to be looking out for and what's causing people to lose their properties.
Yeah, I love that. We have a unique conversation today. We've been talking about wealth building with duplexes and purchasing homes. We want to get down into some of the behind the scenes, some of the nuts and bolts of after you've already done the right things, how do you maintain your money? In the studio today, we have my friend Margaret Alfred. She is a property tax attorney, and she's going to be breaking it down for us. So have a technical conversation today. We're going to try not to get too in the weeds, but today is the day that you want to get your notepad out because she's going to be giving us some games. So welcome to the Blueprint Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, this is going to be good. We've been planning this for a little bit. So I'm glad you finally are coming out your shell here and letting people know the information that you got. And I'm excited for people to hear some of the games I get to get from you and other professionals that are in our network. So kind of kick us started. So why don't you give us a little bit of your background, who you are, what you do, why somebody should be listening to you today.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Margaret Alfred. I've been a lawyer for over 6 years. So I've been practicing for 6, but I've been a lawyer for 7.
Okay.
I've worked at the same law firm the whole time that I've been practicing.
Nice.
So that's Lineberger, Goggin, Blair, and Sampson. It is a delinquent property tax law firm.
Okay.
So that's really what makes me knowledgeable when it comes to real estate and property taxes.
Okay.
Before that, just to give you a little background about me, I went to law school at the University of Florida where I got my LLM in tax law.
Nice.
Before that, I went to Thurgood, so that was my HBCU phase. And I got my JD there. And then before that, I'm from a small town called Beaumont, Texas.
Okay.
And that is where I got my degree in accounting and a minor in Spanish.
Wow.
So I've been in school, or I was in school, for quite some time.
Okay. Nice. So you've got the degrees, you got the education. So I always want people to know that, like, when we come on the Blueprint Podcast, you're getting professionals. You're getting people who actually do the thing day to day. This isn't just like going off of vibes or TikTok clips. Like, this is people who really do the thing. So, like, what does a day to day look like for you? As a property tax attorney, and kind of who do you guys serve?
Okay, so we serve municipalities, school districts, cities, things like that. So we are not for the everyday man and woman who own a property. Yeah. We're not on the homeowners side.
Yeah.
Okay. We are on the side of the city. We are on the side of the government trying to collect so that they can beautify the community. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
Fix our potholes, do the things that we need, right?
Yeah.
My day to day, I would say I handle volume. So at any given moment, I'm responsible for over 2,000 delinquent property tax cases. Wow. I have 3 staff members, my paralegals, and they are everything. I would not be able to function without them. Yeah. It's my job to, like, steer the ship, make sure we stay on track. Okay. So each week we have court on Wednesdays. Sometimes we have court on Fridays as well. Okay. We handle everything from service. So making sure that people are notified of the suit in the first place. Yeah. And then getting them served so they know about the trial setting or the court date, whatever that hearing may be. Yeah. We make sure that we're identifying court costs. So court costs, legal fees, delinquent taxes, like all of those things, we're looking to see what's still remaining due. Did somebody pay something off? Does it need a non-suit? Does it need a dismissal? It's just literally reviewing these 2,000 cases to get them moving. We have to move them because every month our firm initiates more suits. Okay. So it's a conveyor belt. And so if we don't move the cases, then we just get this backlog and it's a mess.
Gotcha. So I think it's interesting because most of our conversation today, we will be talking about more of the residential side, more of the common man, I guess, is what you could say, which is why I think your perspective and your expertise is so valuable, because to some degree you're kind of coming from the dark side on this, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if your firm would want me to say that, but like in terms of like, you're on the side of, the cities or the taxing entities that are typically, suing people for property taxes. And so I think you kind of understand like how these cases get put together. You understand how somebody can win, how somebody can lose. So I think you really understand it from a unique perspective. And so I think that's why I think this is going to be really valuable. Yeah. Why do you care about like real estate? Why do you care about financial literacy? Like why are we here today in terms of what you know about the system and taxes and all the things? Like what value do you want to bring today for someone who's listening?
Well, the first thing that I want to tell people is that our firm wants you to keep your property. We want to help you to be in a position to keep it. However, avoiding a lawsuit or avoiding a notice is not the answer to helping yourself. In fact, it just digs you deeper. And then we can't really help you much but to say, oh, you need to get on a payment agreement, right? So that's the first thing I want everyone to know. Like, our goal is to help you keep your property. But aside from that, I just see too many people each Wednesday losing their properties because of what they don't know.
Wow.
And so because I see that, it's encouraged me and made me more aware that I need to get the word out about what are the different things people need to be looking out for and what's causing people to lose their property.
I love that. And a lot of times, you know, I'm a realtor here in Houston, and so I'd say about 70% of my clients are first-time home buyers, right? So these are people who are getting a property for the first time, and, you know, you don't know what you don't know. There are experiences that you just have for the first time, right? And so taxes seem to be kind of the thing that most people don't really understand, especially if you have an escrow account, right? If you're an escrow, you don't really know. Like, the property taxes just get paid through your escrow, right? And like, you know, it's just something that, you know, we have a general knowledge of, but not in detail. So why don't you kind of explain how do property taxes work? Like, how should a first-time home buyer understand, like, how this impacts them? What do the taxes go to? Like, kind of give us a breakdown.
Well, let's start off with where you live, because you need to understand what area you live in and what are the different taxing jurisdictions that tax in that area. So one of the reasons why I'll see a lawsuit even come about from someone who has paid some property taxes, but maybe not all, is because they didn't have an appreciation for the county and the school district and maybe anyone else that needed to be paid off. They paid someone, but they didn't pay all of the people. So looking up on the Harris County Tax Office or on Harris Central Appraisal District, your actual account number to see who are the taxing jurisdictions that you owe. That's a great starting point. Because how do you know unless you look it up?
And so typically, I guess maybe the big three that I think of, and you can fill in, you know, maybe if there's more, is typically you have like your county, right? You have, and that will encompass like, you know, the county is paying for like your libraries and like your public services. You have your city taxes, right? And that's kind of like road repairs, local government. You have, I guess, your school districts. I think the school districts is typically probably the biggest, right? The school district is maybe 50% for most taxing entities. And then you have your special districts. And we won't spend a lot of time on special districts because those can get kind of complicated. But generally, the mud district, I think, is probably the most popular or the most common that most people will come to. And your mud district is going to be, a lot of times, if you're like in a new construction, master plan community, they're set those
smaller,
up.
Newer.
Yeah, exactly. So those are, when we say taxing entities, those are kind of what we're talking about.
Well,
City,
Michael,
county.
You did your homework.
Hey, listen, I'm trying. And so you're saying, like, people really need to have an appreciation for what those entities do for you. So you understand like where your money's going.
Exactly. Not just where it's going, but the fact that you owe it, you owe money to all of these different taxing jurisdictions. Like, people just don't understand. Like, you could be on the border, right, somewhere, and then end up owing like Cy-Fair, which is Cypress Fairbanks ISD, and owing the county, and you're like, wait, I thought I did pay. You did pay someone, but you didn't pay everyone. So we could still find still find yourself with a lawsuit. So when you get a property tax bill, that's going to come from most likely what the county will send you the bill in October. You'll get a bill from your appraisal district.
Okay, got it. So your appraisal district sends you a letter, and it'll say you owe, let's just say $4,000, right? So if you pay that $4,000, is that paying everybody? Is there still maybe somebody left out that you haven't paid? Or is it like if you only paid $3,000 of that $4,000, like how does that get broken down?
It should pay everyone. If you get a bill, what your bill is from your appraisal district, because if you were to go to the appraisal district, it would list out everyone you would owe. So when you get that bill, it should include everyone. Gotcha. And then you're going to pay that. But if for whatever reason you leave someone off or someone isn't taken care of, you should receive a notice saying, hey, especially from our firm. So you should receive one from whoever your tax office is, right? But then if it doesn't get paid from that, then it might come to our firm. Before our firm initiates any lawsuit, we go ahead and we send out a 10-day letter. So that means if there's someone out there, like whatever your address is and your name is that's listed with the appraisal district is who we send it out to. So note to everyone, make sure that is the correct information that you have with the Harris Central Appraisal District or whatever appraisal district.
Okay, gotcha.
Because that's what we're relying on.
Gotcha.
Now, don't get me wrong. If we're initiating a suit, we have a title company go in and identify who's the correct owner and where they're at, right?
Okay.
But the starting point is what is on the appraisal district's rolls.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
But for most people, your taxes are most likely going to be escrowed.
If it's new.
If it's new, okay. So if you have older property, maybe you're still actually getting the bill yourself, right?
Exactly.
Not you can do a payment plan, or you have to pay it all up front.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. So recently, I'm involved in this organization, and our tax assessor, Annette Ramirez, came and spoke. And she said that there's a new program that they're getting ready to roll out. I don't think they rolled it out at this time, so y'all don't. But it's going to allow people to get on a payment agreement before their taxes are even due.
Okay.
So like say 2026. I don't know when it's going to roll out, like when you'll be able to do it, but you'll be able to get on a payment agreement for your 2026 taxes.
Gotcha. Okay. And this, for those who don't know, your taxes are similar to like your income taxes where you pay the previous year, right?
Yes.
So if you get a tax bill for 2026, or if you get a tax bill in 2026, it's for 2025.
Right.
So you're paying, is that retroactively? Is that the right word?
Let me say it like this. I'll tell people like this. If there's already a lawsuit that I currently have right now, and it's active, right? And someone has, like, say, for instance, 2023 and 2024 taxes are included in my suit, right? And they're going to get their bill for 2025 taxes in October, so around this time sometime, right?
Okay.
If my suit is still active come February 1st of next year, and they have not paid their 2025 taxes, they automatically roll into my suit.
Okay. Wow.
So that's what happens. If you ever find yourself hitting a rough patch or a hard time and you need to get on a payment agreement, but we initiate a lawsuit before they get on a payment agreement, then they need to keep up with the next year's taxes because it's just going to be a spiral. It's just, and they're going to be like, well, why is my suit still, and why is it larger now than it was before?
Yeah.
Because you didn't get on a payment agreement before we initiated a lawsuit.
Okay. Gotcha. So one way somebody can avoid any kind of lawsuit or any kind of payment issue with their taxes is, protesting your taxes, right? And so being able to protest your taxes would kind of, technically to some degree, kind of lower the amount of money that you owe, right?
It can.
So, like, talk to me as, how can someone protest their taxes? How does that process work?
So there's like multiple ways that a person can protest their property taxes. Probably one of the easiest ways, if somebody is comfortable with a computer, is to just go straight to the CAD. And I say the CAD, it's the County Appraisal District. Whatever appraisal district you're in should have an ARB, which is an annual review board, that they can go to and protest their property taxes. Okay. Now, before you even get to the ARB, there'll generally be something online, which is like an e-file version that you go and make your account, and then you protest your property taxes via that. Okay. I believe they still do paper as well, but I don't have very much experience with the paper form. I just look at the iProtest, which is what it's called in Harris County. Okay. And then you also have iFile. And then they have something else called iSettle, which is if you just want them to, if you want to do a quick and dirty and see, hey, what are they going to offer me or what aren't they going to offer me? You can go in, submit whatever it is that you want, and then they'll let you know if it's granted or not, if it's approved or not. Okay, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So you'll have the one where you can do it probably paper, and then you can have your iFile and you have your iSettle. Okay, gotcha. And then if you don't like what they tell you back, that's when you escalate things and you have your in-person hearing. Gotcha.
Okay. And then that tax number value is basically essentially, if you say your house is, worth $300,000, that's not necessarily what your property tax value is going to be. They're going to go out, I guess, in the county will do an appraisal of what your tax value is.
Yes. Okay. But there's also, like, depending on what type of property it is. So if it's your residential homestead, if you live in this property, right, in your day-to-day, then there's a cap on how high they can tax you in addition to what they already tax you each and every year. Okay. So that could mean what you're appraised for, that's going to be applied to your tax rate, is going to be different from the actual current market rate because they're only allowed to bump it up so much if you live there and it's your principal residence.
Gotcha. Okay. So my house, bought it for $300,000. My actual property tax value is $270, right? Yeah, it's possible. So, and then your tax rate would be, I guess, the percentage that all those taxing entities charge you, right? So let's just say it's 2%. Right. Then your property taxes will be 2% of $270, right? Yeah. I'm not good at math, but somebody else can do the math, right? And then year over year, they can't charge you more than 10% Right, as that increases, yeah. Mm-hmm. So like if you owe that a certain amount this year, they can't do more than 10% the next year.
Correct.
And you can protest if you feel like they've picked a number that's too high. Maybe you think 270 is too high. You think it should be 260. You can protest and then go through those steps that you just outlined to lower it, which then ultimately lowers what you owe in taxes, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
yes.
cool.
We want lower values. Lower
values. And I think sometimes people get that confused with their market rate, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Market rate being like what you could sell it on the MLS, right? Correct. What realtors do, right? Yeah. So those are two separate values. And sometimes they can kind of be similar, but a lot of times your tax value is a little bit lower than your actual market rate value.
Well, keep in mind that whenever these appraisal districts are coming up with a value, it's generally a computation that's like some software that's creating it.
Okay.
So whatever, say if you're a real estate investor or you're someone in real estate, some of the same factors you would consider when you're looking at comps are the same things that this computer is looking at when it's coming up with comps for a person.
Wow.
Now listen, why does it get it wrong? I have no idea.
Wow.
But different people have different opinions.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And that's why you have an ability to protest.
Okay, gotcha. So it's literally, they're setting your value based on comps of other similar properties to yours.
It could be.
Okay,
yes,
yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
Gotcha.
So when you go in front of the ARB, assuming you don't like whatever it is that they've given you back as a settlement for your protest, right? Then you need to come with evidence. And evidence has to be more than, well, my property doesn't have a garage and every other property has a garage. So, no.
Gotcha.
That doesn't always get the job done.
Okay, so you could, myself, shameless plug, you could go to a realtor if you really needed to get the comps for your area to see, hey, what are similar properties? What's similar to mine? What is it valued at? What is it sold at? And you can use that in your case, essentially.
Definitely.
Okay.
And I don't want people to think that not having a garage can't get you maybe some reduction, but that alone, it's not going to do it for you.
Okay, got you. So we mentioned the homestead exemption. Can we talk about that? How does that help? Because I think I think you mentioned that that's like if that's your primary residence.
Correct.
Right? So talk more about like what is a homestead exemption and like how does it work?
So a homestead exemption entitles the person who lives there for their principal as their principal residence, right, to get a reduction on how much they owe in property taxes.
Okay.
And just like I'm talking about a homestead exemption, I'll also talk a little bit about an over 65 exemption.
Okay.
Because both of those exemptions are what I see the most of when I'm in court.
Okay.
Most people who have a single family residence, right, they live in it as their principal residence, they're entitled to the homestead exemption. However, it is not automatically placed on the account. Okay. You have to apply for it.
Right.
So that is one thing that some people just don't know. And if you're a first-time homeowner, if you don't apply within a certain time frame, then that first year you won't have the homestead exemption on your piece of property.
Okay.
And then if you're a person that turns 65, you have two options. You can get a homestead exemption or a deferral. An exemption is a reduction, an additional reduction on how much you pay in property taxes.
Okay.
A deferral could mean I don't pay, as a 65 homeowner, I don't pay anything in taxes. But the problem with that is if you leave that property to your descendants, right, they inherit all those years of property taxes that you didn't pay.
That sounds like it could be a big problem.
Yeah. And they only have a very small amount of time to pay it.
Okay.
And then, so what we see just in my line of work is people will go to a transfer lien company, which is the interest rates on those liens or loans are worse than credit cards.
Okay.
And so we'll have people come to court and they're like, I don't understand why I owe more 5 years later than I owed when I initially took out, the loan. And it's because of the interest rate. People aren't paying attention. They're just like, oh, I'm saving grandma's property, right?
Yeah.
That emotional attachment they're taking care of, but they don't realize they're putting golden handcuffs on themselves for the rest of their lives.
Man, that's crazy. So in terms of the exemption, I had pulled some stats here. So essentially in state of Texas, if you get a homestead exemption, I mean, you're telling the taxing entities of the state, this is my primary residence, you get $100K off of your property tax value, right? So the example we gave earlier,
300.
If your property tax value is 270, if you get the homestead exemption, now it's 170, right? And then you pay your property taxes based off of that 170. I also see, like we talked about earlier, it can't go up more than 10%. So in terms of your homestead exemption, you're also, on top of that 10%, that's another savings that you're getting.
Exactly.
And then you can only do it for primary residence. So if you're, doing an investment property, you can't go get a homestead exemption unless, I work with a lot of people who are doing house hacks. So that's one where, I mean, you kind of can you can kind of do both, right?
If it's your principal residence.
Yeah, if it's your principal residence and you have an address there, then you know what I mean, you can do that. So that's kind of a unique way to do kind of an investment type primary. It's a, you know, I don't want to call it a loophole, but it just is what it is. So anything else on homestead exemptions that people should know?
No, just make sure you go and get them. You apply for them. You don't lose them, because sometimes if the person is over 65, they may send a little card to their home. And if that person doesn't respond to the card, then it could fall off. They could lose it, and then they have to reapply. Like, or if you're a charitable organization, there's an exemption for that as well. Like, make sure you're doing what you need to do with your CAD, that you qualify and you maintain good standing. Because if you lose it, it could lead to problems.
Okay, gotcha. And you can typically Google the process for how to do a homestead exemption. Like Harris County, it's out there. If you have questions, just drop them in the comments or shoot me a DM. I can help you do it. I helped a client do that recently.
It's not hard at all.
It's not a hard process at all. Okay, so let's talk about something that I think we had a great conversation about this offline. But, you know, we talk about generational wealth a lot. We talk about passing things down, legacy, and, you know, especially when it comes to property. I mean, you mentioned, you know, saving grandma's house and like the taxes, you know, so these are things that I think our community right now really cares about the next generation, really cares about, you know, what happens with our legacies. And so I found this verse actually that I want to read, and it says, it's Proverbs 13:22. It says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the wealth of a sinner is stored up for the righteous. And it's just encouraging us to like store up riches for our family, and whether that's knowledge that you're passing down, whether that's property that you're passing down, whether that's finances you're passing down, being able to have something that you can pass to the next generation. I think that's so important. And so, you know, one element of that is when we start talking about trusts, right? Trust is a vehicle that you can do to kind of pass property down and protect family assets. So kind of transitioning from taxes, let's talk about trust a little bit. 'Cause that's something we actually talked about on a previous episode and got some questions on it. So that's something that you have a little bit of knowledge on. So we can talk about like kind of what is a trust, and like when should someone use one?
So first I have to give my disclosure. I'm not representing someone. I'm not your individual attorney. Please consult with an attorney before you do anything in regards to a trust. However, yes, a trust is a non-probate way to transfer assets, money, anything that you can think of transferring, you can transfer it via.
Okay, and explain explain probate real quick too.
Okay, so probate is whenever someone dies and either they have a will, and that's what's being probated through a court. You're taking the will and you're asking a judge, okay, this is what this now deceased person wanted to do with their assets. Do I have your permission to distribute these things the way this person wanted? Okay. That's the quick and dirty, the easy way of understanding it, right? Okay. So if someone doesn't have a will, then in Texas, that's called intestacy. Okay. So I always like to tell people, if you don't decide how your assets are going to be distributed when you pass away, the state will decide for you. Wow. And so that is what intestacy is. It is the state deciding how your assets are going to be distributed amongst your family whenever you pass away if you don't have a will. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. But to avoid probate, and the reason we want to do that is because probate can be costly and it can take a long time. Okay. Like it just can. Okay. And whenever someone dies, if they don't have life insurance, then how is somebody going to handle the body? What are they going to do for the funeral? How do they get access to your bank account so that they can do what they need to do in order to tie up your, Yeah. So one way to avoid that is a trust. Okay. Okay. You will pay more for a trust now in the present, right, than paying for probate later. Okay. Because later on, that's who knows how long somebody could contest the probate, and it's going to be expensive. Yeah. But
you're paying like legal fees essentially.
Exactly.
It's like you're going to court essentially. Yeah. Okay.
So for people who are willing, they can just spend the money on a trust now, and I can't say they won't, but there's a less likelihood that someone will contest what the person has done in their trust, especially if they were of sound mind when they did it, right? Yeah. Versus if they probate later.
Okay. And essentially with the trust, it's you're still going by, you still have a will or still a set of instructions, right? That says, hey, I want this to go to this kid. I want this to go to that cousin, X, Y, and Z. But it's an executor, right? Or
here, I'll talk about the different parties that happen in a trust.
Yeah, explain that, yeah.
So there's generally the grantor or the creator.
Okay,
so like, say for instance, I'm the person that's planning for my future, right? And I want to distribute my assets, right? I want to create it, so I'm the creator or the grantor, right? Okay. And then say, for instance, there's somebody that I'm leaving things to. They are the beneficiary. Most people are kind of familiar with that term, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't hold legal title to the assets that I put in the trust. There is someone called the trustee. Right?
Okay, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
so there's
trustee.
The creator or grantor, there's a trustee, and then there's the beneficiary.
Okay.
Right? Ultimately, the trustee is taking care of things on behalf of the beneficiary who's going to get it whenever the grantor
passes. Yeah.
Okay. Unless the grantor is the beneficiary. And we're not going to go into that. It can get convoluted. But yes, those are the three parties to a trust, right?
Okay.
It's very important. What I try to encourage people to do is have a subsequent or a secondary beneficiary. Have more than one, because anything can happen. If you're leaving stuff to people, you want to make sure that someone actually gets it.
Yeah.
But you need to have as many people down that line that could potentially inherit.
Okay, so like possible. If you had the grantor and the beneficiary were a husband or a spouse and they both died in a car wreck, then there's no beneficiary unless you have a secondary. And so you would have to appoint your kids as your secondary beneficiary in that scenario, or like however you wanted to distribute it.
Correct.
Whether your kids could be your primary beneficiary and the spouse is the secondary. I guess however.
I'm glad that you're mentioning this, because when you're saying this, that's exactly how a trust works. However you want to, separate or distribute your assets, that's the beauty of a trust. You can do whatever you want. There are very few limitations to what you can do with a trust. The only limitations will come down to whatever your goals are and what you're doing with the trust.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And that trustee would be equivalent of a judge, basically. I mean, in terms of like they're the one who's in charge to make sure what you want happens, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
To that extent, yes. And I mean, they get their instructions still from you.
Yeah.
You
exactly.
created the trust. It tells the trustee what they can.
And is that trustee normally like an attorney, or like who is that normally?
It can be whoever the person wants. Like, so talking about this, like that a person can have a power of attorney, and they can have a medical and a financial one, right? So it's the same way, kind of like with the trustee. Like there's someone who can do whatever it is that you want them to do with your finances, right? Just the way a power of attorney could, a trustee could. It's the same logic.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's really interesting. Okay, so at what point should someone get a trust? I mean, like, do you think every family should have one, or do you think you have to have a certain amount of assets before it makes sense? 'Cause I heard like they can be pretty expensive, right? Anywhere from like $5,000 to $10,000, maybe.
It can be. It could be higher than that, depending on how many assets you have. Like how much do you have or owe in assets? Own in assets.
Okay.
That's probably going to determine how much someone, or if you currently have litigation and you're being sued. Okay, that would change how much you owe if somebody's setting up a trust for you, because there could be fraudulent transfers, and there are so many different situations, circumstances, scenarios, depending on what's going on with an individual person.
Okay,
and that's why I say like you have to consult with an attorney on your individual situation.
Okay,
but there's no right answer to this. There really isn't. I could tell you the sooner the better, having something in place. But I also am unconventional in the sense that if a person just has a home, a bank account, maybe like a 401k and a brokerage account, or in a car, they don't need a trust.
Okay.
Unless they just want the proceedings to be private and they don't want it to be open for anyone in the world to see, right?
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, that is another benefit of a trust.
Right.
Like it's private.
Okay.
Okay. But you could get a transfer and death deed. That's one way to transfer just a property, right? You can do a payable on death with your bank account. So that means once you're no longer here, someone else has access to that bank account when you pass away immediately.
Okay, and those are like not as expensive as a trust, right?
Not at all. Like, it's so much more affordable.
Okay.
And then your power of attorneys and a living will, which pretty much just tells people, tell someone what you do and don't want to happen if you're like incapacitated. Like, do you want do not resuscitate? Do you want certain medications or not? You know, it depends on some people religious wise, they can't have certain medications, right? So, I mean, it's not necessary for people who have just I don't want to say the bare minimum, because you may have worked very hard to get whatever it is that you have.
Yeah.
But a trust is not always the best option.
Okay.
It's just not.
Gotcha. So trust is maybe if you have more substantial assets, maybe? Possibly.
Okay. Or you value your privacy to the extent that you're willing to pay for it.
Okay.
So like, yes, it depends on what does your budget look like? And what are the things that you want? Like, what are your goals?
Gotcha.
It truly does matter.
Okay, got it. One thing I think that's really important, and I would more so want to hear more of your personal opinion on this in terms of, passing knowledge down, right? And you can talk a little bit about kind of maybe your own kind of personal story in terms of how your family is invested in you, because that's another thing that I think we don't talk about as much is how do we make sure that we pass knowledge down? Like, how do we make sure that, let's say you wanted to have a trust, right? Yeah. You set it up. Did you explain to the rest of your family how it works? Does the rest of your family understand the process, right? Because they may not. So then things may not necessarily work out the way you want it. You know what I mean? So like, I think that's also something I always want to make sure people understand is like, we also have to pass down values and knowledge and experiences because those are just as valuable as passing down the house or the brokerage account or the 401k or whatever. So talk about that a little bit.
So I will start off by saying I would not be the person I am today without my parents, right? I have a dad that's in politics. He's a commissioner. And I have a mom that worked at a plant as a supervisor for over 20 years. Wow. Right? And I am grateful to them both because without them, I wouldn't know what hard work looked like. Yeah. And I wouldn't have been willing, I think, to do it for myself. Okay. I have struggled with school at different points, and my parents got me the tutors I need. I have struggled with so many different things, and they've been there every step of the way. Yeah. And so now, even while I'm doing entrepreneurial type things, they're still in full support of me. Wow. And so even though there are certain things that I learn as an attorney, right, and a person that's interested in wealth, that they don't know, of course I share it with them. I think I get on their nerves. Yeah. But I'm never going to stop because I see the value in this information that I'm learning, and I just want everyone to know, like, what are you interested in? What do you want for your life? What do you want for your children's lives? I think it is invaluable to make sure your children understand and get a solid foundation in the knowledge that you've built. No one taught us how to have good credit. No one taught us how to balance a checkbook, right? Yeah. Or like I worked at a credit union when I was in high school. Okay. I'm blessed. Like I got to see like, oh, this is what happens to people. Like this is, I lived through other people's experiences. Yeah. I learned well that way. But some people learn by the hard knock way. They need to, knock their head against a brick wall or the wall a couple of times. I love to watch people grow and to teach their children so that they don't have to do that. Wow. I would rather see our people build up their children's credit versus using their credit because their own personal credit is not good. Yeah. And then they damage their child's credit. Yeah. And so they're starting behind the 8 ball, and that child doesn't want to, do anything that could negatively affect the parent when they're trying to clean up their own credit, even though I've seen this too. Wow. And it really does hurt my heart when I see that. I think it is the most beautiful thing for a parent to instill the knowledge that they have taken a lifetime to gather into their children. That's what you give them. Like, because school will only teach you how to be a worker, how to make money for someone else. It is our job as entrepreneurs, if you are one, right, to educate your child and to teach them how do they have something for themselves. Yeah, that's so good. I love the way the way you like kind of eloquently said that, because that's something that I think we really, as a community, and I'm not even talking, a lot of times we're talking, Black and brown communities or minority communities, but I think that's just the truth of just the human experience. Yeah. And you think about just like how humans pass down knowledge, you pass down through stories and experiences. And I think it's important for people to create those experiences and, listen to podcasts and buy property or do these things so that you can have the knowledge so that you can then pass it as a story, right? Yeah. And so I think about, my dad was a pastor, and I've learned a lot of things from him just watching him communicate. Right. People, I've been able to, speak on stages and have public speaking engagements and things like that.
And I feel like there's like skills that I've learned that I'm like, I don't even know how I know this, but I just know it. right. I gotta know how to do certain things. Right. And so those are things that I'm like, you have to go live those experiences. You have to take risks. You have to do those things to be able to put yourself in a position to be able to pass that stuff down, right?
I'm glad
and if you can't do it, then you have to educate. You have to put yourself around people who have done it, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I know one of the things my parents did for me, and I hope other people in our community are doing it for their children, is get them involved.
Yeah.
Get them active. Like my parents had us in Jack and Jill, top teams. I did every club and thing under the book. We did summer track. So it taught us how to be well-rounded people. You can put me in a room with anyone and I can hold a conversation.
Yeah.
I do not feel like I don't belong. I feel like I'm right at home.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel.
Yeah.
And I would love that for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the tools or resources, if anything comes to mind? If not, we can definitely put it in the description. But and any tools, resources that you think people should be using to educate themselves? I mean, good or bad, Financial Peace University with Dave Ramsey was one that I did as a kid. That's something my parents were really passionate about. So that kind of helped me learn some really basic financial literacy things that I think, honestly, like we talk a lot about entrepreneurship. Not everyone's supposed to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So if you are literally working a W-2 job and that's okay with you and you're not trying to do, start a business. Right. I think a lot of things that Dave Ramsey says are like 100% I
agree.
Bible, you know what I mean?
Work.
Like, the baby steps work, right? So do you have any other, I guess financial literacy, resources, YouTube channels, things that you consume, you think other people should?
So one of the things that I use in my own personal life is something called Rocket Money. So it's an app. And I literally, when I signed up, they allowed me to pick how much I was paying them per month to use their app.
Wow.
Now, there's a range that they give you. I can't remember exactly what the range was, but it was nominal. I think I decided on like $7 a month. Don't ask me why. I just picked it, right? And it calculates where all of my money goes, right? So there's a person I work with, and he always says that, you got to stop digging. Like, stop digging the hole. How do you know? You have to at least know where your money is going. One of the most essential things that people just don't do. Because we always talk about what we don't have money for, right? When it's something we need. Right? But when it's something we want, we just figure it out, right? But when it's something we need, we absolutely do have the money for it. We're just spending it on stuff we don't actually need. So I think that one of the biggest things that a person can do is start off by just identifying where your money is going. Because I don't know about you, but I have these subscriptions and I go through all of them periodically. And I'm like, nope, don't need that. Nope, don't need that. Why do I even have this? When did I even sign up for this? I don't even know, right? So that's one thing that I do. Another thing, I love listening to Diary of a CEO. I absolutely love him. And so there's all kinds of stuff on there, right? Some is going to be about health. Others going to be about finances. You might have it, something about relationships. And then who else do I like to listen to? Andrew Huberman.
I
think it's Huberman and not Huberman. Y'all don't, my pronunciation may be off on that. But I absolutely love him because everything's science. So like, I'm a big, strong person on statistics. And it's good to know yourself. And so I follow the people in science, even though I am a spiritual person. I like to know to know what science says.
Absolutely.
Right? But that's just me. Not everybody is left versus right brain. I have an analytical brain. And it could be the lawyer in me that.
Absolutely.
So there's no one thing. I just have a desire to be better and do better. And when you have that desire, you find ways. There's always YouTube University. There's talking to people that you know in your life that are financially sound. Like, if you know you're struggling with something, have an accountability partner. And then let them hold you accountable. Don't, I won't tell, but I have a person in my life, and she wanted her husband to hold her accountable, and then gave him a debit card to hold her accountable, and then went and got another debit card whenever she wanted to spend money. And I love her to death, but she knows like this is an area that she struggles in, right? And so I love her because she's willing to accept this is a flaw and work on it. Most people don't even aren't even self-aware enough to know what are your weaknesses. Start there, if anything else. Like, before you look at all of these different, products and services and YouTube University, start with yourself. Like, what do you know about yourself? What can you accept about yourself and your own flaws? Yeah. Start there.
Man, that's so good. How did you reach that level of self-awareness? Did you go through therapy? Is that just something you've always had? Did you develop that? Like,
I have had therapy, and I advise everyone to do it.
Yeah.
But I think it's rooted and grounded in my belief that we can all be better individuals, and that the only way that we get there is by understanding ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, I think I once heard something about your success is directly parallel to your ability to accept all of yourself. Like, if you can because then that means you've identified your strengths and your weaknesses. Like, I'm not great at a lot of things. And to the extent that I can hire somebody to do the things that I'm not great at, or I have a friend that's willing to do the things that I'm not great at, that's beautiful for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't particularly love being on, social media. Like, I struggle with that because I like to be the person behind the scenes. But I also want to get a message out to people and help people.
Right.
So I force myself to do the things that I don't particularly love.
Wow.
And I just want that for everyone. I want us to challenge ourselves. We live and our potential is great.
Yeah.
But the only way we'll identify it is if we know what our weaknesses are. And then we go in on those weaknesses. And then we continue on with our strengths.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. What do you think about, and, I definitely, it's so interesting that the conversation has evolved here because, I've had experiences and like therapy myself, right? And, experiences with myself, friends, family, where sometimes you come to grips with like who you are, right? Sometimes who you are isn't necessarily always who you want to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people relate to that feeling of shortcomings, or that feeling of, I've been trying, I haven't been able to reach this goal, or X, Y, and Z. So like, when it comes to that self-awareness and recognizing your weaknesses, what are your thoughts on that whenever whenever you feel like that?
Yeah. So I'm the first person to say I am not a perfect person.
Yeah.
I make mistakes just like everyone else. But the biggest thing that I believe is accountability.
Yeah.
So as soon as I realize that I'm not holding myself to a certain standard, right?
Yeah.
I start to find ways to help myself. So like, I'll go ahead and throw this out there. Like, if I ever am having a bad day, or I misread an email or whatever, and I get ready to respond to someone else, what I try to do, and I don't always do this because I'm flawed, but I try to sit back, take a moment, and say, is whatever it is that I'm reading true? Like, however I'm feeling about what I read, because what we'll have is we'll have a narrative in our minds.
Yeah.
We'll read something, or someone will say something to us, and then we will pick what it means to us. Yeah. But we need to just stop and think, did that person mean that? Is this even true? Yeah. Is this coming from me, or are they actually, is it them? Yeah. Right? And I normally do that because I know I can be impetuous. Yeah. And my mom can attest to this. Yeah. And so one of the ways is, as soon as I identify somewhere where I feel like I'm lacking, or I didn't show up as my better self or my best version of myself, right? I'm like, well, what can I do to make myself better? How can I show up better for people, whether I like them or don't like them? Yeah. Because I realize the power is with me. Yeah. I get to choose how I show up for everyone else. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so good. And this ties in a little bit to even what we talked about earlier about setting up the trust and, that Bible verse in Proverbs which talks about building up inheritance and, the property taxes and a lot of these things are things that we do, preemptively. Yeah. Right. We set, we set our homestead exemptions and we get trusts, or we get LLCs, or we get these living wills, or all these things. And sometimes I think the reason people don't do them is because it's not something that's right in front of them. Right. It's not something they're dealing with at that one moment. You know what I mean? Or their emotions tell them I don't want to talk about a will, because I mean, I'm like want to talk about death, right?
Right.
So it's the idea,
time.
Idea of like something being hard to kind of grasp, right? But then still being able to push through it. So even the same way of where, you know, like, hey, did the person really mean that the way that they said they meant? It's almost a trust exercise you have to do with yourself to just recognize that, like, hey, there's something better for me in the future, and I need to do something now to be able to get to that better thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's just really hard for most of us to do, right?
Yeah.
And so I want this to be kind of a reminder that, you know, when it comes to making the investments you need to make to build that inheritance, you know what I mean? Like,
it's sacrifice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like being willing to put yourself, you know, to get the Rocket Mortgage app so that you can know how much you need to save, so that you can do X, Y, and Z to be able to buy a property or be able to put about money into your 401k or to your Roth IRA. And like these things that like require, you know, discipline now, but like will be something in the future.
Correct.
And so I think that's just something that I'm glad we talked about, because I think that's the psychology of why people don't do these things. You know, that's why people don't get life insurance, or people don't, because a lot of times it's not about the money. Like you said, when it's something that we want, we can figure it out
all the time.
People, they'll have a $1,000 car payment, but when it comes to the mortgage, like, ooh, that's kind of expensive. I don't want to do that. Or like interest rate, credit card interest. Oh, but like the you know, the mortgage interest rate 7%. I don't know about that.
Don't forget about the afterpays and the Klarnas and all of those other little things. You know, they're
exactly.
Gonna figure it out.
we always rationalize what's important, what's a need, and I think we have to kind of start flipping that a little bit to really understand like what's really important, and like are the things that are important the things that we put our time and energy into.
100%. Like, how do you gauge what's important to you? What are your core values? Like Adam Grant. That's what I would tell people. Look up Adam Grant and figure out what your true core values are.
Wow.
And then attract those people.
Yeah. I guess how have you seen that play out in your life? Like in terms of like, I think that reminds me of the law of attraction. You know what I mean? Like, have you seen that play out in your life?
So I have. I've gone through different stages. I've gone through probably similar to most people. Whenever COVID happened, I got depressed. I was depressed.
Okay.
And I was in my own little bubble, and I felt like no one understood me, and that I was the only one going through what I was going through.
Yeah.
And through therapy and exercise and intentional positivity, I was able to pull myself out of that.
Yeah.
And start to strengthen the aspects of myself that could lead me to moving in a direction that was positive and beneficial, right? And now I'm not saying people may need help, because I mean, I got help.
Yeah.
And so I think that for me, it came down to already having, like, I feel confident in the knowledge that I know. If there's one thing that being educated did for me, it is that I know how to get information, right?
Yeah.
I know how to interpret and analyze information. I feel very confident in my ability to do that, right?
Okay, yeah.
But like everyone, there are certain things that I am not as comfortable or confident in, right? And when it comes to those areas, I push myself to be in uncomfortable positions, like here with you.
Yeah.
Like, I love being here, right?
Yeah.
And I love the fact that I'm having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
But it's uncomfortable.
Outside of your comfort zone.
Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is wearing makeup.
Yeah.
But I think that now that I'm in a space where I'm doing more, I have the energy, like big energy. People feel it.
Yeah.
And like I think the Lord is just, because I am a spiritual person, I think the Lord is just sending me the right people at the right time to move the needle in the direction that he needs me to go.
Yeah.
And I remind myself that this is not about me.
Yeah.
This is about the calling that I have on my life and how I can influence people with all of the different, with the path that the Lord has brought me on, right?
Yeah. And did you think, like, did that path, did it evolve? 'Cause it's so interesting to me to see how God moves in our lives, right? Because I think there's a lot of times people will have, I don't know, like if it's like prophetic sometimes, or you just have a sense of like your calling, right? Some people have it at earlier than others. Some people just like feel like they don't never like, well, I don't know what my calling is, right? But I feel like for a person like you seem like a very driven person. So I feel like you probably at some point like had a compass that kind of drove you in a certain direction.
You know, it's funny.
Like, yeah, how did the puzzle pieces fall in? Like, did it kind of just like, you just like look back at your life and be like, oh, wow, everything kind of worked out that way. You know what I mean? Or
Okay,
like,
so I can take you, starting with the work ethic, definitely come from my parents. So any help that I needed when it came to my education, my parents got me. So that built my confidence in that area. I knew I could make a good grade. Like, that was not a problem, right? But then when it came to identifying that I wanted to do accounting and law, because undergrad I did accounting and a minor in Spanish, and then I went ahead and I did law. Yeah. And I've always known I wanted to do it. I figured out after making my first, I think it was like a D or an F in math, and my parents got me the tutors that I need. Yeah. By the time I made it to middle school, I was making A's on everything. Okay. And from that day forward, or from that time forward, I always made A's in math. Yeah. And so I wanted to have a profession that had something to do with math. That's how I picked accounting, because accounting is in everything. Okay. And I wanted to have something that was invaluable in that way. Yeah. And law is the same thing. Law is in everything, whether you wanted to or not. Even when you go to the movie theater, they give you a little ticket, right? That's a contract. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. Like, you know.
Literally is, it's a seat. Yeah, it's a lease.
And so we learned that in law school, and I'm like, man, the little things that we are able to identify and get just from life. For me, my education did that for me. And I can't tell you when I decided to go all in. It was just a value that my parents had, and it was an understood rule in our household. Yeah. You make good grades. Yeah. I mean, they also did incentivize me. So, like, my sister, I always consider my sister so much smarter than me. To me, grades came easy to her. Yeah. Meanwhile, I would be over here, like, all my life I had to fight to make a good grade. And so my parents would incentivize me with money. Like, I think I would make, like, $20 for every A, and I can't even remember everything else because I wanted the 20, right? And it worked. Wow. That worked for me. Yeah. I understand that everyone can't do that, but find a way to incentivize yourself. Yeah. Incentivize your children and yourself.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think when you do that, I think God can bless that. Because that was kind of the question I was asking there is, you know, how does it, you know, how can someone who's trying to follow something a similar path as you know what I mean, how get someone who's trying to make those things work, you know, what can they do, like what are the steps they can take, right? And it's hard to sometimes be like, you know, just like follow the path, you know what I mean, just like, you know what I mean, those are things that are hard, you know, for people to understand. But I think it's like you find a core value and you live that core value, and that core value will take you down the path to get you where you need to go, right?
It's your compass. Your core values are your compass. Right. Yeah. So first, you have to identify them. Yeah. Right? For me, I knew education was a core value. Yeah. Now, it was something inherited from my parents, but I still got it. Yeah. And I got it at a very, very young age. Yeah. Because they instilled that in me and got me the help I needed to excel in that area, right? Yeah. So this is just my journey. I understand that everyone is not as blessed as I am to have the parents that truly care. Sometimes they have to get it out of the mud on their own because that's just the pick of the draw that they got, you know? I was blessed. Yeah. My parents work hard, and they had a desire to do better and to provide better for their children. Yeah. Because of them, I was able to excel. And then it became my choice. I say once a person becomes an adult, you can no longer blame all your faults on your parents. That stops at some point. Yeah. Because you have the ability to change it. Yeah. And if you don't, someone once said, what you're not changing, you're choosing. And I loved it when she said it because I was like, that is so accurate. Yeah. And so I try to bring that into my decisions. What I'm not changing, I'm choosing.
Wow, that's good. And I can ditto that because I've seen that in my own life where my core value has been service. Yes. Right. And I've seen that in other people, and, you know, people have influenced me, but it's also something that's just important to me. Like, I want to serve other people. So that service has then led me down a path where, like, hey, I chose this degree so I could serve. And then I chose this job so I could serve. And I chose this so I could serve. Yeah. And then ultimately, that service has come back to serve me, and then just help me reload to serve more people. Right. No, and ultimately the goal is for me is like do the most good. Like that's kind of like my whole, like that's kind of like my philosophy. It's like I want to do the most good possible. Right. And so like I want to read that verse again where it says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And I think our inheritance couldn't be our value systems. Right. And so we've talked about in this podcast ways you can protect your inheritance from a property tax standpoint, or how do you save money on a year-to-year basis owning property, right? We've talked about, putting it in a trust or a living will. And I think obviously those are things that I want to go deeper into. I think they're kind of sophisticated, right? So we'll have to do maybe a part 2 so the audience doesn't get too confused or bored with the details of some of those. But those are things I think are really important. And now I really want people just to land, what is that inheritance that you're going to leave behind? What is it that you're cultivating now beyond the financial means? What kind of lifestyle? And do you know what it is? Like you said, even from a weaknesses standpoint, you have to know what your weaknesses are before you can work on them. So do you know what your core value is?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think if someone's watching this and you're you don't know what that core, you can't give it a one word. Your education, mind, service. If you don't know what your one word is or your 2 words, dedicate the rest of 2025 or whatever time you're watching this to understand what is that core value. And you can look back at your life and look at the decisions that you made and why you made those decisions. And it should reveal itself to you. And if not, get people to help you. Right. Yeah. So, man, this has been so good. Thank you for your transparency. And I'm just really blessed to know you. And I'm proud of you because you're taking a step out of your own comfort zone, right? Yeah. You're choosing to educate people. And this is just the first step, right? And so there's going to be so much more. So what can people do to follow you as you continue to educate on financial literacy, property taxes, wealth? I know life insurance. I know you got a lot of different things that you're going to be bringing to the table and offering and serving people. But how can they follow you and what's next for you?
So I would say anyone who's looking for me can find me at Retained Wealth on Instagram. Okay. But then my personal account is the Margaret Alfred. Okay. So depending on what they're looking for, they can just reach out to me. Okay. And I will try to help them in any way that I possibly can. Okay. Because the more input that I get, the more I'll know what people need. Right. And I'll be able to lean on that whenever it comes to putting out content. So just tell me whatever it is that's on your mind. Tell me what you're thinking about and how can I serve you? And
there you go. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Love that. Well, y'all, I hope you've been blessed for this episode. I'm sure you have more questions. Put those in the comments. Send us a DM. If you have more questions about any things we talked about, we'll be happy to answer those. My name is Michael Carpenter. I'm a Houston Realtor, and you've been watching the Blueprint Podcast. See you guys next time.